Hello, and welcome to Math Matters. I'm Mrs. Smith, and today we are going to do a number sense routine called a unit chat. You might want to have some paper and a pencil handy in case you want to jot down some of your thinking. Take a minute to look at this image. What do you notice? If you are watching this with someone, tell them what you notice. You might have noticed that some of the dice are white and some of the dice are black. You also may have seen some patterns with the color, repeating white, black, white, black. You may have also noticed that all of the dice have either a 2 or a 3 on them. And you see some patterns with those numbers repeating 2, 3, 2, 3 on the top row, or 3, 2, 3, 2 on the bottom row. Something else you may have noticed is that there are 8 dice altogether. There are 4 dice on the top and 4 dice on the bottom. We can also see that there are 4 2s, as well as 4 3s. So now I'm wondering, how many total dots are there in this image? How can we figure that out? Either write down how you know, or tell someone how you figured it out. Earlier, we noticed that there were 4 2s, or 4 groups of 2 in our image. How could we figure out how much that is altogether? You may have counted by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, to get to 8 dots. Or you might have thought of this as repeated addition. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 also gives us 8. What multiplication equation could we use to represent this? Since we have 4 groups of 2, we can represent that as 4 times 2 equals 8. We can also see those 4 groups of 2 in the repeated addition sentence. However you figured it out, we now know there are 8 dots on the white dice. So now we need to think about the black dice. How many dots are there on the black dice in total? How would you figure that out? Well, we know there are 4 3s, or 4 groups of 3. You might have counted by 3s like this: 3, 6, 9, 12, to get to 12 dots total. Or you might have thought of this as repeated addition. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 also gives us 12. Maybe you thought about 3 plus 3 is 6, and another 3 plus 3 is 6, and then 6 plus 6 to get to 12. Now I'm wondering, what multiplication equation could we use to solve 4 groups of 3? Yep, that's right. 4 times 3 equals 12. So now we know there are 12 dots on the black dice. Okay, so here's what we know so far. We know there are 8 dots on the white dice and 12 dots on the black dice. So now we need to figure out, how many dots is that all together? How would you combine those to get the total? You might have thought about 8 plus 12 or 12 plus 8 to solve this. Because of the commutative property, we know we can add those numbers in either order and the total doesn't change. One way to add 12 and 8 together is to decompose that 12 into 10 and 2. I showed that here inside the parentheses. Then we can combine the 8 and 2 together to make an easy 10. That leaves us with 10 plus 10 to get to 20. Now we know there are 20 dots altogether. There are so many ways we could figure out how many dots there are in this image, and that's what makes it so fun. Here's another way you might have thought about it. You might have seen ways to make groups of 5. Can you see them? You may have seen groups of 5 like this, where the 2 and the 3 are side by side to make 5. And we see there are 4 groups of 5. Or you may have seen the groups of 5 in this way. However you saw those groups of 5, we know there are 4 of them. So how many total dots? How can you figure it out? You may have counted by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. How could we represent this with equations? Can you think of one or more? Maybe you're thinking addition. We can add those groups of 5 together. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 to get to 20. Or maybe you thought about it as a multiplication equation. We have 4 groups of 5, so we can do 4 times 5 equals 20. Those are just a few ways you might have solved our unit chat. How did it connect to how you thought about it? What was similar? What was different? In today's episode of Math Matters, we looked at how we could figure out how many of something there are by grouping items and combining them. We also thought about how to represent it mathematically with different equations. We were able to see how addition and multiplication are related. Try to find or create your own unit chat at home today. How can you think about how many there are of something, and how would you represent that with equations? They don't have to just be made of dice. Be creative. Here are some ideas to get you started. I'm Mrs. Smith. I hope you have a great day and keep on counting.